locally at the Mason County Career Center. They were each designed and printed by the graphic design class. Mulch in the show ring are donated by DJM Hardwoods and Veneer, located in West Columbia. And our backdrop on the far end down there for the pictures was donated by Rocky and Susan Sturgeon. Other than that, that's our announcements for the day. Now we're going to get a little information on our judge for you. I got a fan up here blowing my papers all over the place. Okay, Judge, if you want to kind of step out there toward the center, we'll get you introduced. His name is Taylor Langford from Knoxville, Tennessee. Taylor currently serves as the livestock judging team coach at the University of Tennessee. Before UT, Taylor completed degrees and judged at Northeastern, Oklahoma A&M, and Oklahoma State University. He later completed a master's degree at Virginia Tech. Along with coaching, Taylor served as a lecturer and recruiter for the Department of Animal Science and is pursuing a PhD this summer. Taylor's been sorting shows for 13 years and has been blessed to sort in over 30 states and excited to be back in West Virginia with us here today. Let's all give Taylor a big round of applause, please. Okay, first up today, we're going to be looking for our first two exhibitors. In our market hog class, we need Kaisley Clonch and Liam Bush. Enter the ring, please. These are our first class, no, actually a class that's an open class. These are two hogs that did not make weight. But we still want to give the children the opportunity to show these. So they're going to be in here in just a few seconds. And as our first two exhibitors are making their way, next up will be Class 1. Class 1 market hogs. Be getting ready to enter the ring, please. Audrey Dean, Miley Young, Austin Dean, Unera Gonzalez, Victoria Rainey, Kennedy Fisher, Jacob Bush, and Owen Bush. Class 1. Be getting prepared to enter the ring, please.
I think a nice way to kick the evening off, kind of diving into the market hog side of things. And obviously got a pair of them that maybe didn't get kind of their ideal weight, but I still think they got quality. I still think there's plenty to get in them. You know, in terms of lining them up, I think the one that fits me the best is the young man's bear. He's going to be a class winner. I think that hog's outright advantage in my mind is just shape, density, and just broadness of skeleton. And with that, he's nice in terms of his look. I do think he's better in terms of his knee and his hind leg. You know, obviously, a little lighter weight. I think these two probably end at about 190. And that bear is not necessarily there in terms of forerib, in terms of body cavity. But I like his proportions. I like his tone, texture, and flexibility. Good deal. Young lady is up in second, and I like that Huck's growth pattern and maturity pattern. I think that one's actually better just in terms of the shape of its body. Center portion of its cavity reads a little bit more practical, a little bit more easier feeding. You know, comparing them, probably not just as stout, having action going away. I think the big thing that I would want to change on that mare is just how that guy gets out and moves. He kind of wants to cave in at his knee, probably not just as sound and flexible out of his hip and hind leg, but a really nice pair to kick things off. Like I said, gentleman in the air will be your class winner. Young lady in the yellow will be second. You guys will ringside. Let's put our hands together for these kids. They've done a heck of a job.
Second place in that class was Paisley Ponch, and first was Liam Bush. Congratulations. Okay, up next in our Market Hog class, Class 1. Loading the chutes this time, we're going to have Audrey Dean, Miley Young, Austin Dean, Yanira Gonzalez, Victoria Rainey, Kennedy Fisher, Jacob Bush, and Owen Bush. As soon as we get the chutes loaded, we'll let them make their way out into the ring. Okay, Judge, we have a total of 8 in the chutes. We have a total of 8 in the class, so this is your class. Got Class 2, be making your way to the chutes, please. Class 2, make your way to the chutes. Cassidy Jeffers, Kaylee Nance, Brooklyn Thomas, Jolie Jordan, and Julia Kessel. You may make your way to the chutes at this time.
part of the kids' new numbers.
That the new system they got.
And they didn't tell us the new numbers.
She just now told me. So it's kind of hard to fix something that I just was told.
Good way to kick off our weight classes, and I'll be honest, young lady's got her class winner here, and I personally don't think it's very close. I think this bear is by some margin the densest one in terms of just spread. His blade, his pin bone, his tail root are big, and yet with that, of the hogs that are in the top end of this class, he is by some margin the most comfortable. In terms of his joint work, he's got a big hind leg, it works. I still think the angle of his blade's right, and I like his look up front. I think that hog needs to win and do so pretty quick. Gentleman right here's got your second place hog, and obviously I'd want to probably tune him up just in terms of skin and hair, but I still think fundamentally that hog's got the right kind of crease down his back. I like his look from the side in terms of length of jaw and flexibility. Compared to our class winner, he's not stout enough at the base of his skeleton, not as good just in terms of his forerib. I would still think a bear that's got a lot of good and a lot of quality. Calico hog's going to be third, and I think to me he just kind of hits me as a bold, practical, easy feeding kind of hog that's got some proportionality. Same time, we got to make his hind leg go a little longer. We got to make that bear reach. He probably is a little shorter, a little steeper in terms of his hip. Probably not just as fresh up high. Young lady over here is going to end up being 4, and I think that hog is actually quite impressive in terms of just his bulk. Has a big arm, a big back. He's got some shape from behind. For me, we study those hogs coming and going. He's getting a little outside of himself in terms of his rear leg. Read him a little bowie from that standpoint. Need to pick him up on his front feet for him to move up. Gentleman right here is going to be 5, and you know, I think that gilt in terms of just fresh shape, I think she's plenty good. The length of her jaw is extended. Her length of skeleton is right. Same time, a little harder in terms of her body shape, a little off in terms of her hand loin hookup. To me, I just read that one to come in a few more pieces in terms of where neck ties into the top of her shoulder, how her hip and her hind leg actually work. From there, young lady over here in the red is going to come next, and I think one that's probably got the advantage in terms of body shape, just lower body cavity is right. I think a hog that's got some flexibility. Same time, probably just a little plainer, a little rounder in terms of her build. Don't read that one just as neat and nifty. Solid white pig comes next. Long neck, sleek looking, really fresh in terms of her shape up high. Coming at you though, she kind of wants to close up in terms of her chest and knee. Don't read her just as stout in terms of her ankle. The bear we got here that wraps us up. Really flexible, really extended, and I actually like the shape of his mid-body. Same time, he's just a little plainer in terms of his muscle pattern, not just as stout in terms of at the surface or up high. Don't read him just as athletic, but really nice class. I thought the young ladies bear that won did so in another routine fashion. Had a really good class top to bottom. Let's go ahead and put our hands together for those kids out of class 1.
Okay, thank you, Class 1. Our top 3 in Class 1 was Kennedy Fisher, 3rd place, Jacob Bush, 2nd, and Audrey Dean, placed 1st. Next up, Class 2 of our market hogs, Cassidy Jeffers, Kaylee Nance, Brooklyn Thomas, Jolie Jordan, and Julie Kessel. We have a total of 5 hogs in this class.
Do you want to do the weights? Like these are the 235s and 240s. Do you want to say that in each group? Do you want to say the weights for each group? This group is the 35, 40, 240.
Class 3, make your way to the chutes, please. Jenna Bowles, Andrew Duff, Zoe Glenn, Jackson Redmond, Addison Robinson, Liberty Smith, Weston Steen, Grayson Adams, and Hudson Taylor. Make your way to the chutes, please. For those of you, maybe this is your first year at the Mark and Hog Show, and some of you have been here a few years. This is the new system we started last year. What the judge is actually doing, he'll take each class and place them last to first. In each class, we'll go from last to first. At the end of the show, he'll bring all first places back out from each class, and out of those top 10 first places, he will pick a grand and reserve and third through to 11th place. So that's what we're doing here. You know, a lot of you may look confusing, but all the first place winners will be back for a final drive to determine our grand reserve to 11th place. Also, if you have loved ones at home confined to the house, having to work this evening and can't come to the Hog Show, Point Pleasant Live is live streaming on Facebook. You can watch them throughout the week. Also, check out the photos from all around the fair. They'll be here with us all week, broadcasting the shows, taking pictures throughout the fairgrounds. All photos taken by Point Pleasant Live are free to download. You can keep up with everything going on right on their Facebook page. And you can see all the fair agendas and stuff going on there. We want to thank the students of Point Pleasant Live for their hard work and dedication during another year as they're covering our fair at Mesa County. So let's give them a round of applause. They work real hard for us each and every year. Making it available so all of those that are all home confined and working can jump on there and see what's going on with the children are showing and grandchildren and so forth. So we really appreciate everything they do each and every year here. Not only here, but throughout the county, throughout the year. All right, no pass.
Interesting group of 5, and I mean, first tell you, I don't 100% love my class winner, but that one makes the most sense to me because I do think we have to keep in mind it is a Mark and Hog Show. That thing is by some margin the freshest and the broadest, driving active, driving away. I think that thing's skull reaches down, its arm is big, its structure is heavy. Really like that one's shape and muscle. The reason I don't love this one is because that thing is bow-legged, his rib cage ain't good enough, and he's too forward in his blade, and it makes it hard for a guy like me because I sit here and advocate for look, build, and structural quality, and honestly, that is his biggest limit in this class. Bottom line, there's just too much of him. He's still got a decent enough look from the side, but his hind leg has to go better. Young lady, solid black gild over here. Truthfully, from a skeleton standpoint, it's safer. I think that thing's hind leg is better. At blade angle, knee and toe shape is more in line and has a decent enough look. The reason I put her second is because of all the hogs in this class, that one is probably the plainest step high in terms of her shape, in terms of just the turn to her actual, the edge of her loin. I just don't read that thing fresh enough up high. She's pushing a little bit down in her jaw. So for me, I end up having to put her second, even though her skeleton ends up being my favorite. I gotta have more of her. Young lady in the cowboy hat's third. I think that bear's got some extension in terms of just his framework. Rib cage reads pliable, structures in check. Of the ones we've got in the top three, I call him a little weaker in terms of his top line, a little more bowy in terms of his hop, maybe just a little plainer ahead of his blade. Young lady right here in the orange is going to come out in 4. He's probably as dense and pliable and easy feeding as anything in here. At the same time, he's got the same problem I do. He's a little chunky, and we got to trim him up. That hog's way past his prime. You study his jaw, his flank, and just the seam of his hip. He reads too plain. He reads too modest. We've got to tone him up. Barrett here wraps us up. Long, extended, flexible kind of hog. Just needs more muscle coming at you up high and from behind. Nice class of 5, though. You got to think through that class to decide where you want to land as a show judge, especially between the top 2. But a good class nonetheless. Let's put our hands together for those 5 kids.
Okay, thank you, Class 2. Our top 3 are Class 2 placers. Representing the Hillside Ramblers 4-H is Cassidy Jeffers with 3rd place. The Leon Lucky's 4-H, 2nd place was Brooklyn Thomas. And 1st place, representing Mason County Vocational FFA, was Kaylee Nance. Congratulations, you girls. Up next is our Class 3. Class 3 hogs weighing anywhere from 245 to 250. These hogs weigh 245 to 250. In the chutes, we should have Weston Steen, Jackson Redmond, Jenna Bowles, Andrew Duff, Liberty Smith, Addison Robinson, Zoe Glenn, Hudson Taylor, and Grayson Adams. We have a total of 9 in this class, Judge. This time, Class 4, make your way to the chutes and load the chutes, please. Class 4. Class 4, load the chutes. another announcement. When we was up here at the Northman Festival back in June, we did not have all those bleachers on this right-hand side of the showroom. We just went to the white post and that was it. But thanks to the Chuck Claflin Foundation, who donated the funds for these new bleachers, and the Mason County Career Center, you now have additional bleachers that set up just as high as the people over here so everybody can scream back and forth to each other now. Y'all not going to be overshadowed over here. So give them a big round of applause. That makes a big difference to me.
Good class. Had to herd cats a little bit, but we got it figured out. Girl right here in the middle, she walked in. I knew she was going to win. I didn't really look at her the rest of the time. Why? She's the best one. And I don't think it's very close. I think, we spent like 5 years raising these things, and the thing that I will tell you, her look, her presence, her feature is just in line with Show Pig, and yet she is the densest, she's the broadest. Whatever you want to say about her, she makes sense. Now, she's not perfect, and where I personally want to fix her, I wish that gilt would maybe get out to go better in terms of her hip and her hind leg. But if you beat her because of that, you're just making up excuses at that point. She is the best one. She has to win. Gentleman right here in the yellow is going to have her second place hog. I like that big deal. He's got some look, he's got some presence. I still think his rib cage is round, his back is broad, and yet his structure's still in check. Same time, what's his problem? He's stuck in class with her. Just call him spade. Not as tricked out, not just his neat looking, but fundamentals are right on that bear. That's a solid bear. I think you end up in a different class. We're having a different conversation about where you need to go. Unfortunately, you get stuck behind her. Sometimes that's how the cards end up playing out. But understand, you got a good one. Unfortunately, you got beat by one that's just a little more out there. From there, I end up going to the young lady over here with this thin belted gilt. You know, I know that gilt really likes to hang on the rail and doesn't want to get off, and just, it's hard to get a look of her, but bottom line, she's fresh, she's muscular. I think driving at you, driving away, she's got some skeletal width. I actually think the proportions of her skeleton are more in line with her top two. Reason I don't move her up. Lower body needs to be softer. I don't necessarily read her hind leg just as far reaching as what we find, but still a good gilt that's got a lot of quality. The gentleman over here that's pig is trying to escape is going to be fourth. That thing is as stout, as broad, and as dense as any of them we've seen. Driving at you, driving away. Big mug, stout blade, and big hip and pin set. Same time where I want to fix her is in motion. She kind of wants to throw her elbow out, wants to bow her rear leg, and I want to make her square, just coming and going. Needs to be a little fresher in terms of her look from the side. This hog right here winds up in fifth, and honestly, I like his skeleton. I think that's a long jaw, neat looking bear, that in terms of blade angle, toe shape, and hind leg, I have plenty of value in. Bottom line, we needed him to man up. He's not just stout enough right here. We got to pull him apart, give him more real shape and dimension for him to move up a couple of spots. From there, we go to this calico gilt right here. I think back 2/3 of this thing is really nice. Top line's in check, hind leg is stout, but it goes the right direction. She's actually got some shape to her hip. My issue with her is her front feet are too flat. She's too vertical in terms of her shoulder blade. Probably just a little plainer in terms of her chest view and back shape, but a nice one winds up in 6. The other calico is 7. Probably just a little stouter coming at you. He's wider in his chest. He's got more substance at the base of his skeleton. I actually love the shape of his body. For me, I call his jaw just a little plainer. I really want to see that bear. We got to lengthen him out of his hip, because when we do, it'll allow his hind leg to actually get out and reach, because right now he reads a little too straight, a little too vertical. The bears that wrap us up, I think, are pretty similar. They've got some density in terms of feature. They've got some spread. Same time, I call them just a little plainer in terms of their makeup, just a little round in terms of their build. But an awesome class, top to bottom. You guys will ringside. Let's congratulate them. They did a heck of a job.
Our third place finisher in Class 3 from Ridge Runners 4-H was Addison Robinson. Second place from the Road Runners 4-H is Hudson Taylor. And first place in that class from the Rainbow Warriors, Jackson Redmond. Next up, Class 4, into the ring at this time, we have Bella Mays, Miranda Smith, Boa Dangerfield, Blake Roach, Riley Conrad, David Zelmer, Madeline Grimm, Trey Gilkey, Levi McKenzie, Reagan Robinson, chutes here shortly. Class 5, you're on hold. Okay, Class 5, do not load the chutes yet. Wait in that holding area behind the chutes, please.
obviously class size ends up getting a little bigger, and I still think there's things you have to do. I think the quick thing is starting this hog. He's not perfect. I want to make him leveler out of his hip, but bottom line, that is a stout-headed, wide-chested hog that's got some spread and shape up high. Gauge is big, and yet his hind leg works. I think his structural quality, his cage and dimension just make the most sense in this class. Yeah, he's got to be a leveler, but I think if you beat him because of that, I just think that's getting into the really, really fine details of what would make him next level. I still think in this class in particular, he's the one that's got to win. I gotta be honest with you, I love this gilt right here from the side. She is wild looking in terms of her jaw, the angle of her shoulder blade, and how everything works proportion-wise from the side is very good. I guess my issue with her is compared to our class winner. She's not just as broad in terms of her head and her chest. Forehead reads a little flatter. Just don't know if she's pulled apart as much. Honestly, of the top three, she probably ranks third in terms of whip. Gilt that winds up in third is the gentleman right over here. No, that's third. That's third. That hog to me is one that, in terms of spread, in terms of density, I like a lot of things about. That's actually her advantage over the one that we just put second. Same time, she's a little flatter on her front feet, a little up in terms of her crest and her chine, probably just a little plainer from the side. Got to make that thing a little sporty. The young lady comes out next in 4. That's a good-looking, good-footed barrel. I like just his reach, his flexibility. Same time, his issue of the top 4s has not got enough. Coming and going, he needs to be stoutened up in the seat of his pants. Don't read his shape, just his radical. Gentleman right here in the cowboy hat comes out next. That's that hog's advantage. Stoutness is structure, shape up high in density. Same time, just a little plainer in terms of blade forward, a little rounder off either end of its skeleton. We got to square that thing up in terms of its rear toe. She's wanting, or that gilt's wanting to rock them in. Don't read her just as square and comfortable. Young lady comes out next with a hog that, in my opinion, I think one that we start down low. That thing's stout structured. That thing's good in terms of the mid portion of its body cavity. I think up high, that's a big bladed, big hipped one. To me, we start getting into the logistics of that one's skeleton. She's too vertical in her blade. She's too short and stiff out of her hip. Just don't read that thing blending together quite as nicely. Calico Hawk comes out next. One that coming at you has got some stoutness of feature. That one is really massive in terms of just his skull, his chest. I like his extra length. I like his extra shape of hip. To me, that gilt is just a notch too plain. She's pushing too much up through the base of her jaw. Doesn't read just as good in the shape of her body. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that with all of her extension, she's probably just a rib long. I think it made her soften up if that gilt was maybe a little bit more boxy in terms of her back. One that comes out next. I think fundamentals on this pig are right. I think it's got spread. Body shape is good. Reads like an easy feeding kind of a hog. To me, I think easy feeding kind of works to his detriment. He's just a little chunky in terms of his jaw and his flank line. Probably a little more modest, step high. Maybe not just as attractive from the side. We come out next with a hog to me that I think just in terms of structural and just density of structure, there's no denying that pig's got it. One to me that actually works a pretty good crease down the top side of her skeleton. Same time, kind of closes up in terms of her knee. Front toes need to be modified. Probably not just as neat and extended ahead of her shoulder blade. We then move down to the target hip one, and I think to me lower body shape is right, length of skeleton, growth pattern is right, breathes with some width. Same time, he's probably the most jammed up in terms of his skeleton and how he moves. And then the hog that wraps us up, long, extended, really growth-oriented kind of a barrel that's really loose and flexible. In this class in particular, I probably call that gilt the lightest muscle, probably the narrowest made, gives up the most product relative to that class. Good set though, top to bottom. Congrats to those kids.
Lee Park Pioneers, Bubba Dangerfield. Second place in that class for the Rainbow Warriors was Madeline Grimm. And first place, representing Road Raider 4-H, was Riley Conrad. Up next, Class 5. Class 5, we have a total of 5 entries in this class. Total of 5. Alania Kessel, Claire Watson, Luke Thomas, Ash Herford, and Jalen Wood. Class 5 Market Hall. These halls ranges were, well, they all weigh 265.
Easy class winner, young lady right here, Stephanie Gill, to win. Looks like Show Pig, fresh up high, still reads dance in terms of the structure. Her high neck's not perfect, that's where I fixed her, but bottom line in this setting, she has to win. It's not close. I think the other 4 is where it gets tricky. I end up using this guy here for second, and I'll be the first to tell you. He's a little past 12 o'clock in terms of shape and in terms of cover, but I think fundamentals are right on that pig. He's got some spread coming and going. He's got some density. Same time, compared to a class winner, to playing ahead of his jaw. We got to clean up his flank line, make that hog just a little bit more genuine in terms of his shape. Young lady right here with back tag 110 is going to be third. That one is fresher. That one is leaner in terms of just composition. Same time, plainer headed, lower jaw, one that gets a little off in terms of her top line and hip. Don't read that one just as cracked open. Durop's going to be 4th. Good body, stout made, kind of a gilt up high. Too plain in her shape. She's a little steeper out of her hip. I want to lengthen her out of her hip and honestly out of her jaw as well to make that gilt proportion better. Gentleman right here, long, extended, kind of a hog that's really lean and ripped up. Same time, a little too harsh in terms of her body wall. Get that thing going. She's too upright and vertical off both ends of her skeleton. For as much shape and power as she has up high, I needed to match at the surface. Nice class of 5 though. Congrats to those kids.
Okay, we need Class 6 in the chute at this time. Class 6 in the chute. Carson Roach, Lily Spires, Riley Davis, Ryan Long, Bradley Wall, Madison Trippett, Noah Gardner, Wade Watson, Bentley Gardner, Emmett Zelmer, Chloe Cooper, Landon Kiefer, and Katie Collins. We have a total of 13 in this class, Judge. Class 6 all weighed in at 270 pounds. Our final results in Class 5. Third place, the Hillside Ramblers, Alania Kessel. Second place for the Leon Luckies was Luke Thomas. do not leave your hogs because at the final drive, when the first person in your class comes out, you will be coming back in. And you can possibly be grand or reserve champion. So once that grand champion's picked, we'll be bringing the second place hog back in from that group. And you could possibly be reserve champion, so do not leave. We will be pulling somebody back from out of the barn as the first places are picked. Stay with your animals, please, till after the show. Okay, we may be just a little over halfway through our hog show here today. We want to announce our sponsors again. Our Grand Champion Hog Banner sponsor is sponsored by Carolyn Conan Realtor and the Angie Zimmerman Realty Group. Reserve Champion in memory of Mike Robinson, sponsored by the Wright family. The Grand Champion Belt Buckle, the Grand Champion winner here today, sponsored by United Producer Market. Rookie of the Year banner, sponsored by the Roadrunners 4-H Club, goes to the highest placing exhibitor of the show here today, as the first year of showing. The highest placed Hannah Junior, Senior, and High School Market Hall exhibitor will win the Michael Rainey Senior Memorial Award. The Dale Newberry Keep At It Award will be given to the 11th place overall hog show, which is $300 cash. The Clean Stall Award is sponsored by Becky Rainey. Sportsman, the born and raised winner at the hog show will receive $500, sponsored by Eastern Piggly Wiggly, if the hog was born and raised here in Mason County. Banners for all the shows this year were purchased locally at the Mason County Career Center. They were each designed and printed by the graphic design class. Mulch in the show ring donated by DJM Hardwoods and Veneers in West Columbia. And the backdrop with the pictures being taken were donated by Rocky and Susan Sturgeon. Big thank you for all these sponsors. That's these ones that help make it happen each and every year. So thank you all very much.
on who's standing in here judging, I think you can number them up quite a bit. The gilt that I used to win, the predominantly white gilt, I think where she needs to win to me is just from an aspect of freshness, look, and just proportionality. I think she's the one that's the most ideal in terms of skeleton and look, and yet does it with the right kind of crease and curl up high. Young man over in the corner is going to be second. I like that gilt. I know she doesn't necessarily want to get out and show off, but when we got her out here, I'll be honest with you, buddy, when we pulled her out and actually saw her, you went from fourth to second. So make sure, moving forward, if she's on the fence, if you got to tackle her, if you got to shoulder check her, do what you got to do. Get her out here, because that gilt deserves to be shown. Like, that thing's got some out there pieces. Obviously, Market Hawk show, but obviously she's a gilt. Thinking about the breeding side of her, that thing's as bulky, as dense, just as pliable as anything in here. She's got a nice look. I don't know if she's just as radical in her shape and just presence as the white gilt, but that thing's got a lot of quality. This gilt right here, young man, I tell you, it's a shame it's a Market Hawk show, because if we're in a breeding gilt show, it's a different conversation. That thing's skeleton works. I like her look. I'm going to sound really weird saying that she just reads extremely maternal in a Market Hawk show, but she does. And I think as a breeder, you got to be able to switch gears and say, hey, fundamentals are right on that thing. Compared to those top two, you don't know if she's just as shaped up right here, maybe a little thicker and needs to be cleaned up at the base of her throat, but I like that gilt a good deal. Gilt that winds up in fourth, and this is the one that I say, depending on who's standing in the ring, that hog can win or she can end up where she did today, because if you use her to win, you do it from the standpoint, that one is the stoutest. That thing is the widest, driving at you, driving away. She's as big up high, as awesome in her body shape and any. So why do I beat her? Of the top four, I call her hind leg the poorest. I don't read her hind leg as comfortable. She struggles the most in terms of just reach and flex, honestly, off either end of her skeleton. I think if that gilt handled her lower joint work better, she would win easy. Unfortunately today, joints read just a little too tight, a little too jammed up. The gentleman in the green that comes out next, he's got a hog, in my opinion, that just kind of kept growing on me. He's not just the craziest looking one from the side, but if we're talking real world fundamentals, that thing is as broad in his back, as good in his cage, and just as stout in his general build as any. You know, when we start thinking about the top five, the reason he slides to five is probably because of some of the extras. He's a little rounder, a little plainer, not just as out there in terms of his look. The man, wide, stout, burly kind of a barrel that's good body, just needing to be a little fresher and a little more unique from the side. Solid black pig that comes out next has probably got that advantage. He's a little taller at the point of his shoulder. I like his look. I like his reach and flexibility. To me, that Hawk's too generic in his shape up high. It's big, but he doesn't read as fresh and as crisp. Need more genuine shape in that barrel. One that comes out next. Fundamentals of him are right. Wide coming at you. He's got a big chest, big arm, back's big. To me, I think his head shape kind of tells the story of his look. Just a little rounder, a little plainer. Young lady, I know he has had to use the bathroom quite a bit, but you stuck with it because he got poop everywhere, didn't he? We stuck with it though, and I think the longer you were out here, the better you got. I like that barrel, just needing to be a little more unique from the side to move up. Young man's blue hip gilt comes out next. I think one that in terms of just shape of lower body, reach out of her front end, I have no issue, and I think her hind leg is square, goes the right direction. Catch that gilt coming and going. I don't read her just stout enough in terms of her chest and her pin bone. Needs to be just a little bit more massive through the seat of her hip. I think if we can give her a shot more power, that gilt moves up. One that comes out next is one for me that not similar to the one we just discussed. Lower body's right, rib cage is round. To me, I feel like this gilt with all of her power kind of comes in a few more pieces. She kind of wants to drop her blade forward. Need to get her to drive out of the top of her shoulder blade higher. Reads a little rounder and steeper out of her hip. Young man's gilt, young man's hog that comes next. Long, extended, lean kind of a hog. In terms of spread, we need to modify. The skilt's got to be stouter at the surface. She's got to be leveler off either end of her build. And for me, I just want to bulk her up. But in terms of just her genuine mass and dimension, one that comes out next, young lady's done a nice job. I think a hug to me that in terms of just midrib and cage, he reads pliable, he reads practical. In terms of top shape, he has it. I guess for me, I just get a little bit more picky on his build. He kind of runs the wrong direction, a little flatter on his front feet, a little more upright off of his hind leg. Just need to modify him structurally. Next one that comes out. Long extended kind of a hug that's got just some bulk through the mid portion of her body cavity. To me, similar to the one we just discussed. A little too vertical up front, a little too vertical in terms of her hind leg. Don't know if her shape is just square, just fresh enough to make it up any higher. And then the hog we got wrapping us up, I think is one that in terms of flexibility, I have no issue with. That hog is probably of the ones we just discussed, as sound and as comfortable in motion as any. He's long, he's extended, he's got some length of jaw. To me, it's up high. I don't read him just as stout. Right out the back of his shoulder blade, kind of matches from behind. Just need a bit more to him for him to move up. Good class, so let's congratulate those kids on a job well done.
Okay, up next, Class 7 should be in the chutes, ready to show. Class 7, get into the ring. Barker Johnson, Allie Bonecutter, Henley Taylor, River Russell, Tilly McDaniel, and Ezekiel Martindale. We have a total of 6 in this class. These hogs all weigh in at 275. And our results from Class 6, third place, the Wahama FFA, Carson Roach. Second place, Road Runners 4-H Club, Emmett Zelmer. And first place, with a little bit of luck, Landon Keeper. Okay, Class 8, you can be making your way to the chutes at this time. Class 8, make your way to the chutes, please.
How many classes, man?
Out here and maybe some different parts and pieces you got to navigate through. I think young lady right here in the FFA shirt's got the hog to win. He's not maybe just as wild and out there as some we've seen the past couple of classes, but bottom line, his advantage is just watch the hogs drive action and go away. His chest, his arm, his rib cage read right, and yet he's still stout in his hip. And of the hogs we've got in this class, his joint work is appropriate. balances up nicely enough from the side. Young lady Salk right here is going to be second. I think one that in terms of length of jaw and just being square up high, there's plenty of value there. Stout in terms of his hip. For me, with as stout as he is up high and from behind, I wish it matched down low. He's a little frailer in terms of his bone work. Don't know if he's just as level as our class winner and just as good body. From there, gentleman over here with the gilt is going to be third. I like that gilt shape. She's probably as fresh as any of them to me. For a gilt that's got that kind of shape and expression, man, I wish her front skeleton would be a little more up in the air. But a lot of that kind of comes back to the fact she's just a little too far forward. Hind legs got to go square off either end of her build. Gentleman over here is 4. Good body pair that's got some flexibility. Like the angle of his blade and his hind leg better than 3. Unfortunately, he's a little too plain to the base of his jaw. A little rounder in terms of his back shape. Just needing to be fresher. All we've got here, gentleman right here is going to come out next. I think his advantage over the young lady beside him is just he's actually square in terms of his build and his shape. You know, compared to those top ones, definitely not as shapely, maybe not just as pried apart. The fundamentals are right. Hulk here, he's got the advantage in lower body cavity. I like his extra length, and I do think his growth pattern reads right with some lateness and maturity. Same time, I call him probably the plainest in his muscle. To me, he's one that's probably also pushing the limits in terms of cover, especially up to the base of his jaw, down in terms of his flank line and lower body. But a nice class of 6. Congrats to those kids.
Thank you, Class 7. Third place, River Russell from the Hillbillies 4-H. From the Hillside Ramblers, Kelly McDaniel was second in that class. And from the Hannon FFA, Henley Taylor placed first. Up next, Class 8 should be in the chutes, and here they come. Landon Long, Isaac Lewis, Cruz Herford, Isaiah Fannin, Paisley Roach, Catherine Leeport, Connor Cody, Drake Gardner, Lane Nevick, Caleb Stamper, Zane Dangerfield, and Marissa Thomas. We have a total of 12 in this class yet. 9, you're up next. Be loaded to shoot. Class 9, make your way to shoot. You're up next. In the ring at this time, they weigh 280 to 285. This time we'll have a couple more royalty, fair royalty here announce who they are.
Hi, I'm Ava Roach, your 2026 Mason County Miss 4-H. Hello, everybody. My name is Maggie Hustle, and I am your 2026 Junior Miss 4-H.
This is probably as fun of a top three as we've got to discuss yet, and I say all that while knowing that I think it's very good. He's kind of, honestly, a little different than what I thought he may be when he came out the gate, because I actually thought he was just going to be kind of a power hog, but then you get him out here. His joint work will hang with anything in here. His hind legs right, his front feet are good, and when she gets his head up, that thing has got a stout but athletic look to him. I just think that one is very, very good. I like that bear, a very good deal. That image right there, thank you for the assist, sir. That's an image I can get behind. He's good looking, he's stout, and yet his joint work goes the right direction. That's very hard to do. Buddy, you're in any other class, you win. Just being honest. I love that deal. I saw her earlier. That thing's look from the side is wicked. I love just the proportions of her skeleton. And I think how her hind leg is going to be third. Compared to our class winner, probably not just as radical in terms of body shape, probably not just as radical in terms of just spread. But I'm going to tell you, that's probably as high quality of a second place hog that we've had to this point. I like that one a very good deal. This blue hip there, standing still, big fan. I mean, he is as broad, as stout, as dense as anything in this class. Then he moves. Hind leg's a little too squirrely for a guy like me. He's a little uncoordinated in terms of hind leg placement. We got to square up his front toe. But he is undoubtedly the most massive over the back of his blade. I think that hog's got a ton of product. I need his hind leg and lower joint work to work better to move up. When it comes down, 4 has the advantage there. That thing is better in terms of hip and hind leg. Angle of blade to me is more in line, and I like the shape of her body. Same time, of those top 4, probably just a little plainer, a little ordinary in terms of her head shape and jaw. Don't know if she's just as square in terms of her hip. I like to truthfully, with all of her broadness, I don't read her just as radical in terms of the base of her hip, right out the back of her shoulder blade. Gilt that comes out next has that advantage, man. She is really shapely up high. I like just the turn and the crease to her back. A good deal. And yet a gilt that's got some presence ahead of her forearm, long, extended, clean jaw. To me, it's her hip and her hind leg that get her beat. She's a little too stiff, a little too upright in terms of her ankle. Don't know if she's just as soft in terms of her body shape. Gilt that follows. I think this one's the exact opposite. Her rib cage is good. I like just how bold and how dimensional she is through the mid portion of her body cavity. One to me that driving at you has got some skull, some chest, leaves with the same impression. Same time, I want to change and modify the shape of her crest, the base of her jaw, and make her square out of her hip. Reach just a little rounder for me. Gilt that comes out next, the young ladies, is one that kind of has the advantage from a standpoint of shape for sure. She's got the right kind of turn, the right kind of curl up high. To me, I just feel like that gilt gets a little more jammed up in terms of her build. Blades forward, neck doesn't necessarily set in at the top where it needs to. For me, a hind leg that needs to go better in terms of how those things move. Gentleman that comes out next has got a gilt to me that, I made the comment earlier. I know it's a market hog show. We talk about the breeding gilt side. That's a good lower body shape. That's a good hind leg to me. She's just a little too plain up front, a little more ordinary in terms of her back shape and pin bone, but still a female that's got immense quality. Solid white hog that comes out next is tall shouldered. I like his reach and flexibility. Young man would have showed this one to me in showmanship today. I like his proportions. I think for me, he reached just a little too mature in terms of his crest and his shape. To me, we study his lower body, base of his chest and throat. I just read him to be a little bit more generic, a little past his prime in terms of where he needs to be in terms of leanness. Blue hip one that comes out next is one to me that is really good up high in terms of shape. That's probably as good of a shape we've got as any to me. A little cresty, a little higher in terms of her chine. I wish we could clean up the base of that one's jaw, make that one go with a better hip and hind leg. Calico looking hog comes out next. Flexible, long extended. To me, probably just a little plain in terms of his look. We got to radical that, make that one more radical in terms of just his spread and just his dimension, driving at you and going away for sure. Just don't know if there's enough of him. And then the one that wraps us up, man, you want to talk about one that just in terms of growth, extension, and having the right kind of lean composition, that gilt definitely has it. For me, starts down low. Got to make her stouter at the surface. For that to happen, she needs to be just a little stouter up high as well, just in terms of blade, pin width, and just substance in general. Nice class though, top to bottom. Kids did a heck of a job. Thought those top 2 were very interesting for sure.
Okay, class 9. You may enter the ring at this time. Class 9. Landon Blaine, Jason Nance, Josiah Zelmer, Kiefer, and Gabriel Thomas. We have a total of 11 in this class, and these Hawks all weigh in at 290 pounds. Okay, results from Class 8. From the Leon Luckies, Marissa Thomas was third. The Rainbow Warriors, Lane Evick was second. And also Rainbow Warriors, Catherine Leeport placed first in the Class 8. Congratulations. This rider, all first place finisher, will be coming back for a final drive after Class 10 is finished up. All other showmen, please remain with your hog in the show barn because we will be bringing some of you back, I'm sure. Second, third, fourth place especially, maybe even further back. But like I said a while ago, once we pick a grand champion, that reserve could be a second place hog. So be ready back there. Okay, Class 10, Nathan Wood, Bryson Gillespie, Abigail Martindale, Ella Leeport, Skylar Birchfield, Shanley Hager, and Luke Lane. You can be making your way to the chutes, please. Make your way to the chutes. Just leave the front row empty.
out here, and honestly, probably as many different types and kinds as what you can find. And I guess the two that I land on, I do think make the most sense up top, but man, they are absolutely polar opposites. The one, and this is going to sound a bit cliche, the one that looks the most expensive and has the most expensive parts and pieces is the gentleman's, and that's why it's going to win. Not just in terms of the shape and crease and spread, it's by some margin the best. Now, I'm not saying she's perfect. We got to hook her up better in terms of the top of her blade, what her hind leg does. But I think that one, to me, just has the most unique parts and pieces, does the most things that are probably the farthest reaching. You know, young lady's going to wind up being second. And I think this hog from the side probably blends together a little better. But I think you have to be careful when you say that, because yes, that one's spine is leveler. Yes, that one's neck hooks up better. If you actually study her from the side, that hook to me is actually probably a little too plain at the base of his throat. Kind of wants to rock his feet in. I think compared to our class winner, his shape's just not as out there and not as dimensional. From there, we go to number 3. This barrow is very stout-legged. He's good bodied. He's got some density. To me, too plain up front, a little round out of his hip. And for me, I wish his hind leg went better. The way he sets it down, just a little too upright. We need that barrow to push his hind leg farther past the base of his tail when we get him out here and drive him. One that comes out in 4. Good looking, good skeleton. I like that thing's proportions. Unfortunately, honestly, of the top 5, that one gives up the most in terms of body shape, in terms of genuine spread. I just don't read that one near dense enough. One that comes out in 5. Fixes that one in terms of a cage standpoint. I like the fact that this thing reads with some spread coming and going. Same time, too thick the base of her jaw, a little too round off either end of its skeleton. To me, one that's kind of pushing the limits in terms of climb and just cover from that standpoint. Just reads a little more modest. Hog that comes out next is got a good hind leg. I like his lower body. I like his joint work. To me, too plain in the shape of his head and his jaw. To me, also a hog to me that just isn't good enough in terms of tail set and hip. A little more upright in terms of rear toe. Probably gives up some cage compared to the couple before him. One that comes out next. Good body, long, extended kind of a hog. To me, it's just a little rounded his build. He's a little more upright in his shoulder blade, a little more vertical and a little out there in terms of where his hind leg sets down, needing to be fresher in terms of his shape up high. The blue hip one or blue top one comes out next. That one's actually pretty good in terms of shape. I like that one's crease and curl. One to me that's really long and extended. Actual shape of jaw reads right. A little more upright off both ends. Probably just a little more restricted in terms of the shape of its knee, the bend of its top. Don't know if that one's just got enough. One that follows is one that, you know, fixes that one in terms of comfort of knee and hind leg. I like that one's rib cage better. Same time, a little too plain from the side up high. Just comes in too many pieces on the go. Next one that comes out, extended, really long and just growthy kind of a hog that in terms of just flexibility is plenty good. Same time, a little narrower in terms of her head, kind of tells the story from there back. Don't read that barrel just as stout in terms of his blade or his pin set. And then the one that wraps us up is a really extended hog that's flexible. I like just the design of his toe shape and his hind leg. To me, too plain at the base of his throat, too round off either end of his build. Not enough of him to move up. Good set of them though, top to bottom. A lot of differences, a lot of different parts and pieces for sure. But congrats to those kids that did a nice job getting them out here and getting them pieced together.